ANTIFA organizer runs off and marries Muslim man, begs to come home after receiving this brutal wedding gift. If you haven't heard of Lacy MacAuley, she is a left-wing ANTIFA organizer who promotes riots across the country. She was also featured in Project Veritas' undercover video exposing her as one of the morons behind the violent protests during Trump's inauguration. Like most left-winger, she crusaded for Muslim rights in America and even helped the terrorist scum get in the country, under the guise of refugees of course. She was determined to prove that Islam is a peaceful loving religion. Then she met a Muslim man and fell in love with him. That's when things took a turn. She moved to Turkey to be with her new lover but quickly realized her views on the so-called religion of peace couldn't be farther from the truth. Over time she was exposed to the brutal reality of their way of life and realized she was wrong. She wrote a blog explaining how horrible it was to live under Sharia law and the brutal ways she was treated. Here's a few snippets from Lacy the Muslim lover's blog. It's quite interesting to see her open her eyes to the true meaning of Islam. Here is more from Freedom Daily. I am a radical activist based in Washington, D.C. I fell in love with an energetic, charismatic activist I met in November when I was present to write about resistance to the G20 summit, a global event in Antalya, Turkey. After I came home to the U.S., we talked every day. He was lovely and charming, I thought at the time. He offered a ready smile, engaging kindness, and intelligent conversation. He said all the right things to convince me that he cared about women's rights and activism. In February, I decided to return to Turkey with the promise of love driving me forward. I couldn't have known things would turn sour. The first 2 weeks were quite the love story. I observed that he was drinking heavily, and called him an alkie, but it was just a joke at first. We went to the beach and historic sites, and he introduced me to his friends. All seemed to be going well, and I felt that the romance was solidly moving forward. Then came our first fight. I had wanted to interview a local woman for an article on Syrian refugees. He did not approve. He knew the woman and did not like her, so he strictly forbade me from speaking with her. After I questioned his rationale, he yelled and stormed out of the room to go smoke a cigarette. I just stood in the middle of the room not knowing what to do. Of course, as a Western woman, no one had ever forbidden me from speaking with anyone else. It was a strange feeling, don't I have a mouth to speak? Why can I not use it as I wish? MacAuley goes on to discuss her feminist background that would have prevented her from being a Muslim had she known what they truly believed in. But of course, this lesson came too late, as she would learn. This is elementary feminism. No man has the power to silence a woman, just because he is a man. How far backward things would slide in the coming weeks. What I found over the next few weeks was an absolute frustration of my efforts to do my advocacy work. I had put myself in a place of dependence upon a person who, as it turned out, would have liked to keep me by his side and control my every move. He hindered, rather than helped, the work I tried to do there. Hilariously, MacAuley would soon realize that people who criticize Islam are not bigots at all. As her life was transformed into a living hell with her Muslim boyfriend. Things deteriorated rapidly. His insecurity and childishness got worse. In the following weeks, I was violently pushed, blocked from leaving freely, and repeatedly told not to speak. If I spoke anyway, anger erupted. I endured threats that I would be burnt with cigarettes, flinching as he faked with his lit cigarette. I had to duck to avoid having sharp objects thrown at my face. I had water angrily poured over my head. Unwanted sex? Rape? All the time. He did not stop to determine whether I consented to sex. Several times, he turned off my Wi-Fi and lied about it, a modern-day form of gaslighting. He verbally criticized me for using social media, my main link to the rest of my life back in the US, and tried to discourage me from using it. He forced me to unfriend one Turkish man on Facebook, and wanted me to unfriend many more.